Hello, I'm Mayor Brad Pike. Welcome to the Explore Eagle podcast, where you can learn more about our city of Eagle and our community. Hi everybody, I'm Brad Pike, the mayor for the city of Eagle, and I'm honored today to have Dawn Shumway with me. She's the 911 Public Safety Communications Manager for Ada County Sheriffs. Dawn, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say about communications in the 911 safety world. So, how'd you get started with the 911 communications?
Oh, well, that's an interesting story. So I applied when I was just 18 years old. So I've been doing 911 for over 21 years. It's been everything that I've known for like my adult life. But my mom used to be a dispatcher. Awesome. So yeah, she was a 911 professional in Utah, and I loved visiting her at work. But it wasn't like I didn't really recognize what was going on. She just had a soda machine there, and I love soda. So like I was like, your job's the coolest. I want to work here when I get older. So
awesome.
Yeah,
so it's in the blood.
Yeah, it was in the blood, and then I ended up finding, as I got older, I just had a deep love for being able to help and serve the community. It's an honor to be a part of 911.
Awesome. A little bit of details is, what's your geographic area that you provide services for? And then I'll ask you how many calls you have a year, basically. But who gets the service from 911 for Ada County? Yeah,
so even though we're part of the sheriff's office, we dispatch for. So sometimes people don't understand. We're the dispatchers for Boise Police Department, for Meridian Police Department, for Eagle, all those things. Star, you name it. So anything within Ada County Sheriff's Office, we're the primary PSAP for. So we accept all 911 calls for all of Ada County.
I mean, are you getting inundated right now with a specific amount of calls at a specific time of day, or kind of get into the details of, where's your call volume actually,
Yeah, so last year we processed over 504,000 requests for help. Wow. So that's a lot. That includes 911 calls, that includes our calls to our non-emergency, that's text to 911, everything. So all the help that we created and that people had requested of us, 504,000 over that. So with that averages out to over 1,300 a day. And so we process a request for help every single minute. So it's a lot, but in the summer it's more because it's good weather.
Right.
So people are out, they're out doing things. Yeah.
The call for service obviously increases with the opportunity for people to get out there. So in terms of staffing levels, then, because so many calls you're taking, how's your staffing models and what is your needs currently?
Yeah, so staffing is something that we need. So in 911 across the nation, they declared that they were having a staffing crisis nationwide. Luckily with Ada County, we are one of the rare places that are having a good staffing, and that's because of the support of our community from people like yourself. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, so with that, but we still need more staffing. So we're hoping to get more. We actually have openings that should open up in October, so if people are interested within that, and anybody can be a dispatcher. So I think that's, people are like, oh, what does it take, and it just is, do you have a heart that you want to care and serve for people, then you can do it.
I think some of the things, maybe for a dispatcher, because I was on the other side of the microphone in the fire service, listening to the need and keeping your composure and keeping your ability to focus on the call. It's always been interesting to me is how you keep a calm voice, because it's unique, and it takes a little bit, even if we're trying to be calm and professional on the microphone too.
Yeah, one of the obstacles for 911 is that it's like reading a book, but you only get chapter 6. So you don't get the beginning and you don't get the end. And so having that part, maintaining the composure, not knowing the full story, but just processing, because you have to process stuff so quickly, like what's happening now. And then oftentimes we actually don't get a resolution. We don't know because we go to the next call, whereas those responders who respond on scene, they'll, have more of a resolution because they're working that for a longer period of time. Right. But we process, last year we had a single dispatcher who processed over 1,700 incidents just themselves. So that's a lot of calls that they touch. That's how many calls, and so it's a lot of incidents. And so with that, we provide the most care that we can in that moment that we have. But there's still, we're faced with obstacles. So when you brought up the staffing part, So we have, you know, our staffing rises and falls with the call volume.
Mm-hmm.
So at night, we're not staffed with as much as we are in the daytime during our peak busy time. So our staffing could range from 7 dispatchers on a time to 12. That's our minimum. But that's something that we'd like to increase so that way when people need to call 911, nobody wants to have hold,
Exactly.
And for those who are coming, maybe if you've ever had to call 911 in another area of the nation, we want to keep providing the care that what makes Idaho Idaho.
Right. As far as directing and educating the public to what's appropriate for 911 and what is really it's a non-emergency, because a lot of people just use you as the go-to for, I've got X amount, something weird's happening, but it's not really an emergency.
Yeah. Well, and I guess eliminating myths. Sometimes people think like, oh, when you call 911, it's separate from the non-emergency lines.
Yeah.
But when you properly call 911 versus our non-emergency number, it helps us prioritize our calls. Our non-emergency number, for people who don't have it, it's 208-377-6790. And so you call the non-emergency when you need help, but it's not an urgent matter. So let's say you came home from vacation and dang it, like someone had broken into your shed and took one of your tools. So you don't need an immediate response, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for 911, we want to keep that for people who want to report a fire, stop a crime, save a life. And so like if something that's like evolving, you need help right now. So, and one of the myths too is, especially, so July 4th, it's really busy with calls. It's our peak day. And with that, sometimes people get frustrated maybe that their neighbor's lighting off illegal fireworks. And they'll call 911 for that, but that's not a proper resource of 911. We don't have unlimited resources
Mm-hmm.
for 911. So when you tie up one of those resources, it makes someone who maybe need it for a stroke, like they're maybe a medical, fire, all those other things, they can't get through,
right,
because the lines are tied up.
So you kind of want to talk a little bit in terms of how you help provide them to do what they can before emergency services get on scene?
Yeah, so we provide a lot of resources before help arrives. So we will walk people through how to administer Narcan, how to administer naloxone. So those are for overdoses,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's intentional or not. We help people, we CPR, we help people navigate how to use an AED. We've delivered a lot of babies, which is, it's fun, that part's fun for us. So to just even helping navigate someone how to get out of their house. We talk to people who are suicidal, and we, to help them stay. So there's a lot of things, action items that we're doing to help keep people, and maybe they're in a compromised situation, in a police scenario where their safety is compromised.
Mm-hmm.
We'll help guide them to what they need to do to help keep them safe until we can get responders there. We'll get someone who calls and they're like, hey, oh, nothing's wrong here. And really there is. Or, we'll have to say, okay, can you say yes or no? And so we've had people who've pretended to order a pizza.
I was going to say about
Yes,
that kind of
but
situation.
they've actually in a domestic situation. Or, they've called 911 and they hung up because, and then on the callback, they've pretended that we're a family member or different things. And so we have to go along with it because their safety's compromised, but secretly asking the questions that we need in order to get help. And then you'll have a medical situation and on medicals, they can vary so greatly, And we also have I don't think people realize how hard locations are.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have emergencies that are mobile. So, we had a gentleman who called that was having a medical emergency while he was driving. So it's not like you can easily be like, okay, I'll just send help to you. You have to coordinate everything. Like, okay, knowing where he was at with his level of consciousness. How can I get him to safety? This is the actions I'm going to give him, to be able to keep him safe, whether it's a stuck accelerator. I'm sure you guys have saw that before on news. Yes, and not everything that we do. I mean, if you think of all the 504,000 incidents we had, those aren't all on the news. You're not going to see all those things. There's so many wondrous things that people have done, whether it's, I've got to find my caller. We don't know where they are. We're going to use the technology and triangulate using our resources, GPS, other things to get coordinates so that we can even send help. Or like the suicidal caller. I had one where I talked to for over an hour, just to stay. And
that's draining on you though as well. See, people forget how exhausting that is because you're in the moment and you're focused, but it's mentally and physically draining on somebody that's communicating with somebody.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we go from call to call to call. You know, so after you disconnect from a call, you take the next call. And that's what I think is the hardest shift for 911 is that you will go from, you know, something where you're like, oh, you know, I hope this person lives, to, you know, I provided the best aid that we could. We did CPR to help got there, but you don't know the outcome. And then you move on to the next call. And it could be something simple like, oh, you know, and I say simple, but where someone's like, oh, I was just in this minor fender bender, we're pulled off the side of the road. And so we, you know, we always maintain the best we can compassion. But I hope that the public, I would love to see us, you know, just give us grace. You know.
And having the ability to rotate staff and everything. See, that's the frustration I'm thinking that people really need to know. And if they have some skills out there, absolutely apply because we are in need.
Yeah.
I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, you get your maximum staffing level somewhere around 73 people or 70 something dispatchers wanted, but you're in the 50s still.
Yeah, we're at 59.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need more.
Yeah.
So you know, to be able to handle the calls. So for instance, the suicidal caller that took, you know, over an hour. Obviously, we're not going to hang up. The support that we've got, I felt, especially when we recently lost Deputy Bolter, it was just phenomenal to have that. We had specific people who had called 911 during that incident and provided aid. And just, you know, it was so comforting for us, even though in that moment, like it's unbearable talking about like all the things that we went through with that. But just speaking to, like, it was just so nice having a community.
Can you go through the format of kind of like, you just kind of basically respectfully tell them, listen, just answer my questions. Can you do that a little bit?
And we do try to, we try to professionally redirect instead of interrupting. So we try to professionally redirect people, because sometimes people panic and they want to tell us context, like, oh, you know, hey, so I got in this scenario because of X, Y, and Z, and now, and it's like, you know, we don't judge people for whatever the circumstances are. We just want to help you as quickly as possible. So getting more direct to the point. So we'll try to redirect people as we need it, like, okay, you know, what's going on now? What do we need? And so we'll shift as far as that way goes. But we, you know, with that, we have to do a lot of calming techniques, because sometimes people, like during those emotional intense events, they're only able to operate out of their emotional hemisphere of their brain. So we have to help give calming techniques and tools that we have, that we've been trained to help them in those moments of crisis, so that we can get them the help that they need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what should they do and not do when they're calling? What would help you guys expedite the call and get the services they need on scene?
Yeah, so knowing locations, you know, so practicing them. So let's say you're new to Idaho. Hey, get familiar. What road are you on? So even though you don't have an emergency now, just practice knowing, do I know where I am? Do I know what road? Do I know this? Because we don't want to have to rely always on our cell phone technology and other things. Like, we want to be able to help you as quickly as possible. So if you know your location, obviously that helps us a lot, especially when you have apartments, when you have parking structures, things that interfere with us necessarily being able to really pinpoint where you are. It's nice if you know. So just being more self-aware where you are. I'd love for the community to be more, so we have this app, it's called What 3 Words. It's free for the community. You can download it, and it can help give you locations to 911. So you can give us 3 words. We automatically get that with certain cell phones, depending on how updated your cell phone is. But it's just a way that you can help be self-aware of where you are as well. And it's really unique. So you'd have to go and look at that. But it's really cool tools and free to the community. We use it. It's used widely in other areas. And
what are those 3 words?
Yeah, so it's this app. So it's What 3 Words, and basically the whole world is mapped up in 3 meter by 3 meter squares, and with 3 simple English words. And so with that, then when we need to send help, we can easily say, hey, you need to go to these 3 words. Instead of, so let's say we'll use Eagle Park. And I'll actually tell you a cool story. So there was 2 Eagle citizens that we nominated for Citizens of the Year for 911 that was awarded in DC just in February.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so in February, and the reason why was because they were, these two ladies, who are phenomenal, by the way, So shout out to Eagle, citizens of Eagle.
Awesome.
They were just in the park, and there was a gentleman who his wife had not come home yet, was overdue, and so he was quite concerned. So he went to the Eagle Islands State Park to look for her. And while he was there, he approached these women and said, "Hey, have you seen my wife?" And they hadn't, but they wanted to help. So as they got the details of what she looked like, how long she'd been missing, all that stuff, and he had called for help, and we had sent a couple deputies as well to help go look. And these two ladies were phenomenal. They went searching, and they ended up leaving the park area and went down an irrigation canal into some farm area. And sadly, this woman, she had fallen into the irrigation canal. She would have died if these ladies wouldn't have found him. But what a weird, when you're in a farmland, there's not this, you're like, where am I? I'm in this field. Like, there's not an easily dispatchable address, which is why, so for them, they call 911, but because of their cell phone, and the type of cell phone they had, we were front loaded with those 3 words. So you don't have to have the app for us to see it on 911, but it can help you as you're communicating with other people. It works offline. So let's say you're hiking or you're somewhere out of service, you can still see it. So let's say once you get in service, you can be like, hey, I need help for my friends. They're back here at this spot.
What's the process through getting hired as a dispatcher?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. So you have to just be 18 and have a high school diploma. And we like you to have some typing skills. So I think our minimum is at 35 for the words per minute. But what we do is we have dispatchers from, sometimes people are like, well, I can be a dispatcher, but there are dispatchers from all walks of life that work at our center, and our diversity is what makes us so powerful and cool as a team, and also to be able to help our community. So we have a dispatcher who is from Serbia. We have a dispatcher who knows how to fly helicopters.
How do we help you so you can help the public, I guess?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and I think some of those problems that we're still trying to solve all of them, so as far as that goes. So one of the interesting things with calling 911 versus responders arriving on scene is when we're handling the call, there's that intensity of anxiousness, fear, so their anxiety, their stress, sadness, all those things. And then when they see help coming on scene, they're like, oh, good, you're here. But they don't have that relief until, typically until help arrives, right? And so it's hard for us. We're processing in that highest moment. And so until they draw down to when help arrives. So we experience an intense, and so when people are calling us when they're having the worst moments of their lives, and we hear so many of it. So we're handling more incidents. We're exposed to a lot more than police, fire, medical, than any other first responder entity.
Absolutely.
911 is. And so with that, we have a high need. And so Idaho was just recently reclassified, yes, as first responders. So 911 wasn't classified as first responders, which is wild. So I'm so thankful that Idaho was a supporter of that. That continued support gives us better access to mental health resources, to funds for training, things that we need. That is a lift for us.
I appreciate the opportunity that you came and shared with us today. So thanks for being here.
I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Explore Eagle podcast, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve you as the Mayor of Eagle. If you have any topics you would like us to discuss on the podcast, please email us at pio@cityofeagle.org.